Massachusetts Youth Soccer Association Annual General Meeting, or AGM. We are pleased that you've joined us tonight for our review of 2022 and some thoughts on our plans for 2023 and beyond. Your strong and continuing involvement and engagement helps our association remain one of, if not the preeminent youth soccer state associations in the U.S. Next slide. Tonight's meeting format, as you know, is being held in the Zoom webinar format. And to keep this from spiraling wildly out of control, the audio function is being controlled and limited by the meeting organizers to avoid disturbing background noise and unmanageable participant audio. As Rob mentioned, questions from you all as meeting participants can be submitted during the meeting through the use of the Q&A function, which is located at the bottom of your screen. Staff members will monitor the Q&A function throughout the meeting and pass along questions to the presenters. If your specific question is not addressed during the discussion, it could be because the meeting hosts want to reserve the right to address certain questions in an offline discussion, or your specific question may be combined with others on the same topic. In any case, if you believe a specific question was not adequately addressed, then please email us and the Mass Youth Soccer staff will follow up. Also, as Rob mentioned, we will be utilizing Nemo Vote as our voting app tonight, and there'll be more on that and a practice session shortly. If you haven't downloaded them previously, the annual program reports and financial reports for this meeting are available on the Mass Youth Soccer website on the AGM page. You will see the URL for that page on the screen, second bullet up from the bottom here. And then okay, so full disclosure, finally, tonight's meeting is being recorded. Next slide, please. These next two slides will simply lay out for you the topics and order of business for tonight's AGM. Next slide. Okay, now I'd like to turn things back over to Rob Holliday, our Director of Operations, who will briefly run through the Nemo Vote process we'll be using tonight. Rob?
Thank you, David. So as mentioned at the start of the meeting, we will be using Nemo Vote as our voting application. So now would be the time to please log into your email and make sure you click on the link sent by Nemo Vote, log in using the credentials sent by Nemo Vote, and we will shortly begin with our initial test vote. The link to the application has been emailed to all eligible voting members. That was based on our membership numbers from the last full registration year, 2021 to 2022. We strongly recommend that you use a separate window or a separate device to be using Nemo Vote to vote. Kayla McClellan and I will be monitoring the votes this evening. Okay. So I am going to shortly open up the first test vote, okay, to see if we can establish a quorum. When you are in Nemo Vote, when the vote appears, you will see a red bubble appear with the vote. That means there is a new vote open for you to be eligible to vote in. So I'm now opening the vote. And we will give you a minute or so to ensure people can log on appropriately. If you are having challenges logging onto NemoVote or with your credentials, then please send me an email to rholiday@mayouthsoccer.org as soon as possible, and we should be able to square your way prior to any votes that take place this evening. We're going to give you another 20 seconds to submit your vote. Five seconds remaining. 3, 2, 1, and the vote is closed. Thank you very much. Okay. And our favorite hot dog topping is mustard, David.
I kind of liked another hot dog. Okay, well, thank you, Rob, for that. So we will confirm that a quorum is present for tonight's meeting shortly. And while we await confirmation of the credentials report, and before we dive into this evening's agenda, I'd like to take a few moments to recognize some of the statewide leadership attending our meeting tonight. Our board of directors meets monthly throughout the year to hear reports from our state office staff and to revisit and consider progress on our various strategic initiatives. We are so fortunate to have this collection of soccer and other talents and experience guiding us as we continue to evolve as a truly strategic board to better serve the youth soccer families of Massachusetts. Next slide, please. Our non-voting board members are valued volunteers who represent together literally decades of service and dedication to Mass Youth Soccer and provide an invaluable link to the past that helps us inform our decision-making. They truly make us better. Next slide, please. Our affiliated league executives, our 13 competitive leagues that are shown here are led by some of the best operators and strategists in the Mass Youth Soccer family. Collectively, they donate untold hours to administering league rules and procedures, scheduling matches, registering players and adult volunteers, and of course, organizing and running our annual Mass Tournament of Champions, or MTOC. Next slide, please. Our state office staff, these are the true superstars behind our success. They perform all the planning and back office tasks necessary for the seamless running of all of our programs, from registration to player and participant safety, to cutting edge programs like Top Soccer and ODP, coach development and training. They do make us who Mass Youth Soccer is. Next slide, please. We have a lot on tonight's agenda, but before we get going, I would like to have a moment of silence for those in our Mass Youth Soccer community that sadly we lost during the past year. While they may have passed, we will not forget them or their contributions to our association and to our sport. Please join me for a moment of silence as we remember and honor the friends and members of our soccer family who left us this past year. Thank you. So again, good evening and welcome. We really appreciate your attendance and your active participation in this important annual business meeting for our association. Every year, this AGM provides an opportunity for our leadership team to engage with our entire membership, our town programs, clubs, and affiliated leagues, to report on our accomplishments during this past year and to share with you all our plans and goals for the coming year and beyond. Tonight, we continue what was started during the COVID-19 outbreak by meeting virtually. What we've learned here and in many other areas of our lives is that while face-to-face has its place, it is much more efficient to meet this way for our purposes. We have seen a dramatic increase in membership participation over the past 3 years by eliminating the need to travel to an in-person AGM. We may return to face-to-face at some point, but for now, this has become our new normal. I'd like to start my comments this evening to you with my heartfelt thanks to several folks who make the business of Mass Youth Soccer possible. To our board and executive officers and our leagues committee for assuming the mantle of leadership and carrying out that significant responsibility with grace, good humor, and tremendous positive effect. To our state office staff, again, the true rock stars who tirelessly keep our program trains running on time. We'd certainly be lost without them. To Rich Frangillo and his staff at MSRC, and to Ellie Nassif, our state youth referee administrator, and to all of our assigners and assessors for recruiting, training, certifying, and assigning the hundreds and hundreds of officials who make our matches competitive and enjoyable for the kids and their families. To our sponsors who provide us with much needed financial and in-kind support. They are our true partners in our mission. And lastly, and especially to our volunteers, the coaches, administrators, referees, the moms who bring orange slices. You all represent the very best of what we do. For almost 50 years, our association has organized and run youth soccer for the kids of our Commonwealth. Along that journey, we have become among the very best at what we do, both in the soccer community and in youth sports generally. We are looked to as thought leaders in how to do it well and how to do it right. Not too bad for a little state tucked away in the top right corner of this big, beautiful country. After my first year as your president, my hopes and expectations remain the same as they were a year ago, to chart a path forward and move there together, continuing to lead and set an example for those who follow. My challenge to you, our membership, is to make this a truly collaborative process. Recently, from some quarters, I've heard many folks decry the drop in volunteerism in our country. It's easier to pay for help than to do the work. I don't believe that, and I'm sure that many of you don't believe that either. What I know is that we will be better if we have many contributing toward achieving our shared goals and objectives. So when the call goes out, whether it's helping to coach, becoming a recreational referee, joining your local organization board, or just helping out with random stuff that needs doing, let's all be the one who says, yeah, it is my job. In his executive director report, Mike Borislow will touch upon some of the association's accomplishments in 2022. And there were a bunch, ranging from nationally recognized award winners to improvements at our Lancaster facility, to upgrades in our technology platform, to the phenomenal growth in our player and adult participation as we emerge from the pandemic. I'd like to spend a couple minutes now, though, looking forward to the remainder of 2023 and beyond, and examine some of the ways that together we can make Mass Youth Soccer even better than it already is. We want to deliver programs that are more and more responsive and relevant to a constantly changing and evolving youth soccer consumer. In 1989, I started in youth soccer as a brand new assistant coach to a second grade recreational girls team in Newton. Things today look very different than they did then. We need to hear from our customers and listen to what they want, because nostalgia is not a strategy. We recognize that our greatest strength is our people, but we cannot reach our potential either as a society or a youth soccer organization when so many are held back from reaching their own. Women, people of color, those with disabilities, the LGBTQIA+ community, they continue to face barriers that have held them back for generations. At the state office now, through the efforts of our new DEIB committee, we will shine the light on every systemic barrier and break them down. Let's make that who we are. Many in soccer say they are committed to growing the game. The challenge is how. It's not by rearranging the players at the top of the development pyramid. Instead, we are laser focused on creating more and better opportunities within our inner cities, rural, handy-capable, and other currently underserved communities. The game will grow by bringing everyone into our soccer tent. Much has been made lately of the need for creating safe, healthy soccer environments. We are out in front of this with several robust and effective risk mitigation policies and measures in place and in the planning, with programs like Safe Soccer and concussion awareness training. Our executive director, Mike Borislow, serves in a national advisory capacity to U.S. youth soccer and other state associations in this important area, and we are so proud of his efforts. We will continue to leverage our people talents by capitalizing on the growing availability of technology, platforms, and solutions. To this end, we are constantly working with our providers to upgrade the ability to register and organize our players and adults, to communicate better and share with our stakeholders, and to ensure a safe environment for all participants. And finally, you may have heard about a couple of upcoming tournaments: the Women's World Cup later this year, and the Men's World Cup, which is coming to the US, Canada, and Mexico in 2026. We are already partnering closely with the Boston Organizing Committee and other national efforts to make sure that we get from these global events the maximum bump in interest and participation in the beautiful game. The legacy is there for us, and we will work to make sure that we optimize that legacy. And for the record, this doesn't come with any ins for tickets, so don't even ask. I could go on. As you can tell, I'm passionate about this, but we have a lot of ground to cover tonight. At Mass Youth Soccer, we see ourselves and others as trailblazers, leaders in the youth sports world. With all of us working together, we can make the next 50 years even better. And what a great legacy that would be to leave to the soccer families of Massachusetts. Next slide, please. I'd like to turn things over now to our Secretary, Dana Santilli, who can deliver our credentials report. Dana?
David, we're going to have to do another test vote for the credentials shortly.
Okay.
So if you want to move to the next slide, and we'll come back to the quorum.
All right.
Thank you, Rob.
Do you want to run that test vote now, or do you need
We'll
a minute?
run it shortly. Yeah, if you want to move on to
Alright.
Thomas, and then we'll run the next test vote.
Well, let's move to the 22 AGM minutes then. Okay, in the materials that were made available to our membership prior to tonight's AGM, we included a copy of the minutes from last year's AGM. And since we have received no comments or corrections, we will consider these minutes approved as presented. The next slide, please. There was no unfinished business carried over from last year's AGM, so we can move on to our next slide, please. Okay, as I mentioned at the outset of our meeting, the financial reports are available on the Mass Youth Soccer website on the AGM page. I'd now like to turn things over to our treasurer, Thomas Ringler, for his presentation on both our 2022 financial results and our 2023 budget. Thomas.
Hey, Dave. Just a quick check, Dave, can you hear me? Because I had the earlier. Okay. So before I move go through the numbers, I want to thank Tara Petrica, who is our finance director. for her diligent work and to keep our books and accounting at the highest standards, which was again confirmed by our auditors, Thomas Poe, that everything is in good order and we follow GAAP accounting guidelines. I also want to say thank you to my predecessor, Derek Smith, who is still supporting us, and his advice is invaluable for filing reports to various state agencies. The highlights of the fiscal year 2022 really, our financial strength returned to pre-COVID level. And the second highlight was the successful closing of our 6 million loan with the bank, which really accomplished two things for us. A, we were able to pay down in hindsight a high loan that came with a variable rate. And as you saw lately, variable rates are not on a loan was not good. And so we were able to change that to a fixed loan, which is really gives us for the next 10 years peace of mind. What is our commitment to banks? And secondly, that loan helped us to fund close to 0.5 million investment into our facility, which will have a lot of fun for the next many years to play on the field. So with that, going into the details, Mike, can you move forward, please? I think you're going backwards.
There we go.
So first slide is the development of our revenues. I want to point out this is excluding our PPP loan forgiveness income. Revenues are back to pre-COVID level and mainly driven by higher membership. Coming out of COVID, our membership increased again, and that was the main driver to go from 4.2 million revenue in previous fiscal year now to 4.9 million in fiscal year 2022. We had also in others a slight increase. Overall revenue increased by 700,000. Next slide, please. At the same time, yes, our expenses increased as well. Our fiscal year 2022 compared to fiscal year 2021. The main driver here mainly increased expenses for our field, where after coming out of COVID-19, we had a lot of deferred maintenance, which we were catching up. And the main increase were our salaries, where we increased our headcount again, and also we reversed our COVID-19 measures by not contributing 401k or bonus payments. All that was reversed after we came out of COVID-19 and we for this again. So expenses increased to 3.7 million versus 3.1 million in fiscal 2021. Next slide, please. And since our revenue increased faster than our expenses, our operating profit actually increased by 200,000 to 1.3 million fiscal year 2022. And for us, this is always very important to watch our operating profit. Our loan with the bank comes with a covenant, and we have to achieve certain ratios, and by far exceeded those ratios in good standing with our bank and with our covenant. So this was the actual to actual comparison. The next couple of slides, I'm gonna talk about our business for this fiscal year 2023. Next slide, please. As you can see, revenues will increase further to 5.1 million. This is expected or budgeted for this fiscal year, which is an increase of 200,000. Again, we expect higher revenues for membership fees, which is really mainly driven by higher fees per member. We are seeing an increase in our program fees, which is the MTalk State Cup, District Select, TSL. We are a bit conservative with our field rentals. We expect actually that the revenues are going back slightly with less league games, and especially on the club side. And then others is also a slight increase, which is really a decrease, sorry, where we want to always be conservative. So we want to budget conservatively our revenues, and so that's where we're going in 2023. Next slide, please. At the same time, we see a strong increase on the expense side. And really, when you look down, it's mainly driven. Also, we are hit by inflation. That's number one. And the second big piece that is driving higher cost is the cost of compliance. Compliance to make sure that health and safety for our membership is secure, and that is, as you can see, the insurance. We expect our insurance premiums to increase significantly, and this is really the main driver why our expenses are increasing over proportional to our budgeted revenue. The next slide, that in total results that our operating profit will go down from 1.3 this year to roughly 700,000 in fiscal year 2023. Again, operating profit, or that level of operating profit, is sufficient to maintain our covenant with our bank loan. So we are meeting these ratios by far, if reduced operating. With that, that concludes my presentation. So I think I see in the Q&A questions, Rob. I don't know if we entertain them.
Yes, please. So Thomas, can you provide some information on the fixed rate for the loan, please?
So the fixed rate is 2.94% with a TD Bank and fixed for 10 years. Just as a comparison, if we were still on our previous loan, our interest rate would be now by 6.5%. It's a variable rate. It was tied to a 3-month LIBOR, which went from almost nothing to 5.1%, and then there was some added other costs with the former loan. So that spread alone will save Matthew Soccer this year roughly 100,000.
Thank you, Thomas. And then a second question with regards to the surplus. We've got a surplus planned. Is there any planned usage?
Yes.
Annual surplus.
Yes. So that the planned surplus is always or mainly going into our investment fund, and that investment fund is target is really to increase our balance. So when 10 years current loan will mature, that we are able to pay down that loan, and in addition to paying down that loan in 10 years, while we think current fields are good for another, like I think 15 years or more before we have to re-turf again. But the second piece for the surplus is to be ready for the next re-turf or repair of our fields. That's really the main purpose of that surplus, to pay down our loan and to have enough funds for future investments or repairs or re-turfing.
Thank you, Thomas.
All right, Thomas, thank you. I hope it's apparent to everyone on the meeting call tonight what a wonderful job that our CFO Tara Patrica and Thomas as our treasurer working together have done in keeping our finances in such good order, well within compliance with our bank covenants, and continuing to add to our surplus as we go forward. So I think we're in very good shape and very happy about that function of our organization. As I mentioned at the outset of our meeting, the annual program reports are available on the Mass Youth Soccer website on the AGM page, and this slide contains the link. We're not going to have any detailed presentation from the program leads tonight. The reports should be self-explanatory in his executive director report or DEIB policies and programs. When the pandemic hit, we pumped the brakes on a lot of things, this DEIB initiative included. And I'm thrilled to report that in 2022, we fully re-engaged on this program with the creation of our DEIB committee with representatives from both the state office and our board. I'd now like to turn things over to one of the committee leads, Kayla McClellan from our state office, for a presentation on the great progress we've been making on our DEIB initiatives. Kayla?
Thank you so much, David. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kayla McClellan, and I am the Risk Management and Registration Administrator here at Mass Youth Soccer. And as David mentioned, I'm one of the staff leads for this committee. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to speak for just a few moments about the committee and our work thus far. So I'd like to start off by introducing the committee. Next slide, please. So this is our committee. It's a mix of board and staff members: Karen, Tammy, myself, Sean, Tara, and Dana. We all come to this work from different backgrounds and lived experiences, but we share a common passion and motivation for this work. On the next slide, I'm going to go into some of the committee highlights so far. So our group kicked off at the end of January, and since then, we have met a handful of times to do the really important work of laying down a strong foundation. We have explored our why and are in the stages of planning and goal setting for the months to come. We do have 2 deliverables so far from our time together as a group that I really would like to share with you all tonight. First is more of a teaser, but it is the creation of a DEIB covenant. This covenant is a summary of beliefs that will help guide our work, and we hope that this will be an opportunity for our community to make the choice to share in this work with us. We aim to finalize this at our next committee meeting, and we'll be in touch with more details as soon as we have them. The second update I'm excited to present is updates to the Mass Youth Soccer mission statement, which are outlined on the next slide. Given Mass Youth Soccer's longtime commitment to DEIB, our group proposed updates to our existing organizational mission statement. Just 5 small words, and those are italicized purple on your screen, the additions that we proposed. The choice to weave our work directly into the fabric of the organization was intentional, and we hope that it shows the formal commitment to DEIB. I'm also pleased to share that the responses from the board were unanimous in their consent to adopt these changes. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in the immediate future, as mentioned, we are working to finalize the DEIB covenant, and we are working to establish some measurable goals and a work plan. That said, our group will continue to respond to important opportunities as they arise, right? Things come up and our group is prepared to be agile. And finally, to borrow a well-used business analogy, one of the big picture pieces of my vision for this work, which echoes the vision that David has laid out for our entire organization, is to sort of be that thermometer, responding to the temperature changes specifically of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So moving from being the thermometer to being a thermostat, knowing where we want the temperature to be, leading the way and working towards that. With that, I'd like to thank you all for your time and pass things back over to David.
Thanks very much, Kayla, and thank you to the entire committee for their dedication and great work on this important initiative for us. Next slide, please. Okay, now for the evening's highlight, I'd like to turn things over to Mike Borislow, our Executive Director, for his presentation and a look back at our very successful 2022. Mike.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you so much for your comments earlier on. Before I get started, just a quick heads up, I'm having a little bit of connectivity problems, so if I freeze, I'll pause and then somebody will cue me and I'll pick up where I left off. But the first thing I would just want to do is thank everybody who is with us tonight. Thank you for taking the time to attend, to be participatory, really to help us take a look at being a part of the future of Mass Youth Soccer. We surely do appreciate it. We always know that we're not going to get a big turnout at the AGM if there's nothing contentious to be voted on. However, the business is always important, and tonight's business of electing a new officer and directors is just as important as it is every other year. So once again, thanks to everybody. Typically a lot of times in a board meeting, I would simply say my report as submitted and say thank you, and then I would just move on. But I did submit my report. It's online. Please take the time to take a look at it. I share a lot of comments about what's taking place using technology. But the most important part of my report is highlighting all of the team members at Mass Youth Soccer, the incredible staff that we have, and who they are, what they do, and how well they do it. So for my comments tonight, I thought I'd take a little bit of a different look at things. Rather than talking about the team, because my report calls them out, I'm going to talk about the score that the team has had over the last year. And when I mean the score, I'm talking about the successes that our incredible staff had over the last year. So I'm going to be reading down a whole list of things rather quickly. Everyone is so important. Every topic is extremely, fruitful over the past year. So here we go. Some of our successes, this is like a speed round here. Some of our successes for the year are new apparel provider, streamlined state cup administration tests with an increase in registrations. We obtained U.S. Soccer Innovate to Grow grants and other grants supporting our urban and underserved community programs. Turf field replacement and property improvement project completed on budget and early. We delivered more coaching courses last year and see the need for more, especially now under the new guidance of our new technical director, Tommy Geis. Increased sponsorship income and partnerships with new hotels for much needed increase in inventory for large tournaments. And then while achieving sustainable growth, the Town Select League is consistently aligning with Mass Youth Soccer's mission, vision, and values. Increased field crew capabilities with new and improved equipment. We have an incredible library of new tutorial videos focused on registration and member management roles. Yes, you see Kayla here with us tonight, and she's the voice behind most of those. ODP has grown with players and staff. An incredibly stronger new continuing relationship with the New England Revolution and collaboration on events. While preserving the strong foundation and culture and community within the Town Select League, we're expanding into new territories. Property management is improved with ability to get large amount of work done due to lower than normal snowfall over the last year. The annual financial year-end audit of 2022 was very successful, as Thomas pointed out. Oh, the list goes on. I mean, we keep scoring and scoring this year, and we're so, the successes are here. Partnering with Players Health to ease misconduct reporting burdens for our member organizations. We have a new bi-monthly electronic magazine, or e-zine. Statewide accepted and required codes of conduct for coaches, parents, guardians, spectators, players, and referees, as well as zero tolerance policy. District Select program had a full team card. Increased focus on our top soccer program. Relationship with club soccer through the NCSL has helped play a very important role at the highest levels of USYS National League conferences and pro division. Excellent employee morale and improved retention of field crew employees. Our virtual leadership workshops that have been held. The Genesis referee program continues to gain momentum. Welcoming 18 new licensed coaches to the current Town Select League coaching staff. Our total number of coaches is 48, all with licenses. Modified several areas of the facility in order to promote safety, aesthetics, and efficiency, and the formal creation of the DEI and B group. And lastly, our biggest success continuously is an overall dedication by staff, board, volunteers to our entire membership through our commitment to Mass Youth Soccer's mission, vision, and values. Yes, it was a busy year from last March until this March. Staff fully committed to helping our members at all levels. There's many more successes I could have listed here, but these were the biggies. And I am so proud to be a part of a team that is so committed to every single individual in the state, providing our children with an opportunity to grab a ball, get on a patch of grass, kick it, and have fun. I'd just like to thank everybody for an incredible year, and next year is going to be even better. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. So Mike didn't share this with me before tonight's call, so I was as pleasantly surprised and blown away as I'm sure all of you are at that laundry list or scorecard of accomplishments that the association had last year. And, the problem with success is it becomes habit forming. So Mike, we're going to expect an even better scorecard for 23. Before we turn to tonight's selection of directors and election of executive officers, I'd like to turn things back over for a minute to Rob Holliday, our Director of Operations, for some words about our friend Ian Mulliner. Rob?
Thank you, David. We are very sad to see Ian leave, so I'll share very briefly sentiments that I'm sure that many of you on the call and many more across the state would feel. That if the impact of an individual is measured by the number of leaving parties held in their honor, then it's clear that Ian's played a significant role. I was invited to 3, and I know that there were many more in various regions of the state. His commitment to the players and to the coaches, the administrators and referees who provide soccer environments for players was unwavering. It was rare that Ian would vent, but if he did, it was because he just attended a meeting. Typically it had gone on too long and they didn't discuss the needs of the players. He's a great mentor and leader, and in his role with Mass Youth Soccer, he led from his heart with humor and humility, always taking the subject matter with great seriousness, but never himself. Although he'll be missed dearly by all of us at Mass Youth Soccer and well beyond, we're delighted to have an advocate for the grassroots players, coaches, administrators, and referees working in our favor at the Federation. We're equally excited that Tommy Geis will have the opportunity to lead the technical department for Mass Youth Soccer. So thank you, Ian Mulliner, And congratulations and good luck to Tommy as he leads us forward in the technical department in the future. We are going to move swiftly into our voting procedures for tonight. So if everyone can log on to Nemo Vote, this one will test your World Cup knowledge. I'm going to open the vote straight away. I can see that a lot of you had browsers open and were still in there. This vote is for the purpose of defining the total voting weight that we will use for a majority. Both of tonight's votes are motions that require a 50% or more majority. So I'm opening the test vote now. If you open up your Nemo Vote application, you should see a nice bubble next to the refresh icon, and you can click on the voting icon. That is the blue, I guess, diamond above the box to vote. We'll give you about 45 seconds to submit your votes. Give you another 20 seconds to finish Googling the answer. Had exactly 26 online for the roll call. Five seconds left. And there we go. We are closing the votes. So the answer is that the US women's national team will kick off the World Cup in 2023 in New Zealand against Vietnam. So only 36% of the total voting weight got that right. Our total voting weight tonight is 100. There's 100 total votes available. So 51 is a very simple majority for us moving forward. Next slide, please.
All right, thank you, Rob. As most of you probably know, our board of directors is comprised of 16 individuals, 4 of whom serve as executive officers. And the board is divided into 4 classes for purposes of staggering elections, so that one class of directors is selected and one executive officer is elected every year for a 4-year term. At this year's AGM, we will be selecting our Class B directors, each for a 4-year term, ending with our 2027 AGM, and electing our secretary, also for a 4-year term, ending with our AGM in 2027. Next slide, please, Mike. The candidates for these board positions are both incumbents and have been submitted to and reviewed by the 2023 nominating committee in accordance with our bylaw requirements to ensure that each candidate meets the eligibility requirements for service on our board, which include assuring that those candidates being nominated have a significant history of prior service to youth soccer and are able to fulfill the duties of a director. I'd like to thank the committee members for a great job they did this year in presenting this slate of candidates. Our committee was led by at-large director Sean Nabelli, ably assisted by at-large director Janet Gargan, former at-large director Jared Scarpacci, Tom Parker, president of the South Coast Soccer League, and JT Traxler, president of the Newton Girls Soccer Club. Normally, we select 3 directors and 1 executive officer each year. But prior to this meeting, we've had some changes in the Class B positions that will affect tonight's selection process. Prior to 2022, our Class B directors included Karen Goulet as secretary and Dana Santilli, Carolyn Fiscato, and Lucy Tarquinio as at-large directors. In 2022, Carolyn resigned from our board and her position remains open, and as no replacement was appointed for that position. Also in 2022, Karen Goulet was appointed to the executive vice president role, filling the slot, the vacancy created in that slot when I was elected as your president last year. This left a vacancy in the secretary role, which was filled by the appointment of Dana Santilli. The Class B directorship that was at-large directorship vacated by Dana remains open since no replacement for Dana was appointed. Under our bylaws, individual candidates may self-nominate by following a clear process outlined in our bylaws. There were no additional candidates this year who chose to self-nominate. And finally, our bylaws do not allow for nominations from the floor at this meeting. So what we're left with tonight is that the sole incumbent at-large Class B director, Lucy Tarquinio, and our incumbent secretary, Dana Santilli, are seeking re-election and both are running unopposed. Typically, we would now give each candidate a couple of minutes to address the membership. However, given the circumstances and in the interest of time, instead, we have posted on the Mass Youth Soccer website on the AGM page both candidates' bios and candidacy submissions. Next slide, please, Mike. All right, first, we will proceed with a vote to select Lucy Tarquinio as a Class B at-large director. I would like to turn things over to Rob to conduct the vote. Rob?
Thank you, David. The vote for a motion to approve Lucy Tarquinio as a Class B at-large director is now open. Please open the Nemo Vote app, refresh your screen, and cast your vote. We will give about 40 seconds for you to complete. We have 25 of the 26 votes in. We'll give another 5 seconds for any additional votes to jump in. 3, 2, 1. The vote is now closed. 100% in favor. The motion has passed. We'll now
That's
move
great.
on. Oh, go ahead, David.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Rob. That's great. Congratulations, Lucy. Happy to have you on board for another 4 years. Next slide, please, Mike. Oh, I think you did. Now we will proceed with a vote to elect Dana Santilli as the secretary and a Class B director. And again, once again, I will turn things over to Rob to conduct the vote. Rob?
Thank you, David. The vote for a motion to approve the election of Dana Santilli as secretary is now open. Please cast your vote. We will monitor the responses, and once we hit 26, we will close the voting. The vote is now closed. And once again, we have 100% in favor of the motion. Back to you, David.
Thank you very much. Moment here. All right, our next agenda item is new business. There is no new business to come before the meeting tonight. So Mike, we can move on to the next slide. Rob Holliday, as our Director of Operations, and his team, including Jamie Balboni, have been instrumental this year in creating and nurturing very successful and wonderful sponsorships for our organization. So once again, I'll turn things back to Rob to recognize our sponsors. Rob?
Thank you, David. Mike, if you can hit the next slide for us, please. So we consider ourselves very fortunate at Mass Youth Soccer to have best-in-class partners in several different areas, including Dick's Sporting Goods, Boston Children's Hospital, Mafre, Bay State Physical Therapy, in addition to great local restaurants and entertainment centers. In the past year, we've significantly improved our income, but also the member benefits and education that we can provide through our partners. Sponsor income gets allocated towards our goals and goals for success in the city programs. And in addition, it provides scholarships for our ODP, District Select, and TSL programs. So thank you very much to the support of our partners. We really appreciate what you do to help players play and support our member organizations. One of our partners, Boston Children's Hospital, are going to be delivering a webinar tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. They have their lead sports dietitian and a female athlete program fellow delivering a presentation on preventing soccer injuries and fueling for success. We've seen the content and the questions. I highly recommend any parent, any athlete that's participating in youth soccer, particularly of the ages of 11 and older, attend this presentation. It will be invaluable in order to help your child fuel for success. And finally, we got one more day left of our Dick's Sporting Goods clearance event. We get 20% off any in-store purchases. In addition, there are also online discounts available on certain cleats and other soccer apparel. We apologize for those of you that tried on Thursday because the code didn't go live till Friday, but there's one day left, and we greatly appreciate our members sharing this far and wide. This is a really great member benefit and timed perfectly to line up with the start of the spring season. So thank you very much, David, and thank you again to all of our sponsors and partners.
That's great. Thank you, Rob. One last thing on sponsors I'd like to throw in. It's very important for our membership to recognize the value these partnerships represent to us as a state association. These organizations are investing in the youth soccer programs that we create and run for the children in Massachusetts, and patronizing our sponsors is a great way to say thank you to them and to continue to encourage them to work with us and perhaps even increase that investment that we so desperately need and appreciate. So please keep that in mind. All right, so good at the game. I'd like to open it up now for anything anyone might have for good at the game. Please use the Q&A function to submit, and the office staff will present the good of the game points on your behalf. We'll leave this open for a couple minutes to see if we get anything. And while waiting for you all to post your submissions, let me start off with a couple of things. We were very thrilled earlier this year that Olivia Wingate, an ODP player who grew up playing in Wilmington Youth Soccer and played for the FC Stars, as well as our ODP program, was drafted in the first round with the 6th pick by the North Carolina Courage and has signed a 3-year pro contract. And we could not be prouder of Olivia as a Mass Youth Soccer player now playing in the Women's Professional League. One other very recent good of the game point, and by recent, I mean last night, 17-year-old Noel Buck, who grew up playing in Arlington, scored the winning goal for the Revolution to put them in first place in the Eastern Conference after last night's play. As I said, Noel is from Arlington, and the last game he played for Arlington was 5 years ago when he was, I believe, on a under 12 team playing in the MTOC finals against Wilmington. Last night scored the winning goal for the Revolution. Rob, do we have anything else from our participants for good of the game?
We do not have anything through the Q&A or any hands raised at this moment.
Okay.
We'll pause for 30 seconds, see if anything comes in. At this point, we are good to move forward, David. Thank you.
All right, thank you. There being no other business to come before our association tonight, I declare this 2023 annual general meeting of the Massachusetts Youth Soccer Association adjourned. We wish our membership a safe, healthy, and thoroughly enjoyable spring season, and we look forward to seeing you all on the pitch real soon. Good night.